Okay, we start in the Masechta. You ready?
No.
Beitza Shenolda B'Yamtiv. Yeah, some people say Beya. That's just Aramaic. They think it's more clean or something. It's more say in Aramaic, but I'm not sure. That's what you have to follow them. Beya is Aramaic for Beitza. So Beitza Shenolda B'Yamtiv. An egg that was laid on Yom Tov. So it's machlekes b'shama yomim teichel b'silam loy seichel. Are you allowed to eat this egg? It was on Yom Tov. You know, on Yom Tov you're allowed to do a lot of malachas. You're allowed to shech. So this it can't be too serious. If I could eat the chicken, what should be the problem with the egg? So, and I can shech the chicken. Let's see. Bishame says there's no problem. Basil says, no, there is a problem. So it's a little surprising. Machlekes Bisham Basil, and Basil is the strict one. Another machlekes Bisham and Basil. Bishamim Sorbekazayas Vachamas Bekaseves. Basil Lemzeves Bekazayas. So, machlekes number 2. Bishamai says that when it comes to chametz, there's two types of chametz. There's chametz that's edible, and there's chametz that's the sourdough starter. The starter. That's not really edible. That's sours. It's used like yeast is used. So you add it to the dough. So, Seves is the large date that you remember from Yom Kippur. Remember Yom Kippur? So Beishamai divides up these two types of chametz into two measurements. Sa'ar, which is the yeast, the sourdough, the starter. That is I guess it means that it's Balgira Matzah. At the size of a kazayas, that's where the prohibition of owning chametz comes in. At the size of an olive, but regular chametz is a larger share, the size of a date, which I think is larger than an olive, but less than an egg. Basil says kazayas. Both types of chametz is the size of an olive. Again, Basil is more strict, right? An olive is a smaller measurement. A person would already violate this with a smaller measurement. Third, machlekes Bishame and Basil, all about yom tov. Hashechet chayav eif b'yom tov. Someone shecht a wild animal or a bird on yom tov. A wild animal is like a deer, something, or a bird, a chicken on yom tov. So there's a special halacha, as opposed to if someone shechts a regular animal, a sheep, a goat. A regular animal, you don't have to cover the blood. A wild animal or a bird, if you shecht, you have to cover the blood. Cover the blood with dirt. Now, Bishama says, well, there's no problem. You take a shovel and you cover the dirt. It's on Yom Tov. No, there is a problem there. Since you're going to need to cover the dirt, so l'chatchila you shouldn't shecht at all. Why? Because they hold that there's a problem with getting the dirt. How are you going to get the dirt? You're going to take it from the ground. You're going to dig it up. Unless you had the dirt there prepared from before. You had designated dirt. Then it wouldn't be a problem. That was all. Should you go ahead and shecht or not? But if you shechted already, now you have the blood sitting there. So then, that you take the shovel and you cover the dirt once it's already shechted. Rashi brings from the Gemara that the shovel was already in the ground beforehand, so you're just pulling it out. I'm sorry, umaydim, but they both agree. Yeah, what's this coming in to say? We'll see later. But apparently, the ashes that's in the kira oven, here's a kind of oven, is considered prepared, and that's not muktzah. And that those ashes you can use to cover the blood. Okay, like that. Okay, let's see what's going on over here with this egg. Well, what's the problem with the egg? Right? We said you can eat the chicken. You should be allowed to eat the egg. Okay, b'maya skinan. Where it says, what are we dealing with here? If it's talking about that it was a chicken that you were going to shecht anyway, and it laid an egg. So my tamar the Basil. So what's the problem? Why does Basil make a big deal about this? If the mother is in muktzah, the hen, right? If the hen was not muktzah, because you could have shechted that on Yom Tov itself, you're allowed to shecht. So why is there a problem with one of the eggs there? How could that be a problem? Uchla da'afrasu. Uchla means it's food. The afras, that's separated. You just separated a piece of the chicken from the chicken. And now you're telling me that it's like mukta of some sort. Yeah, it's the crust of the pizza. That's mukta for sure. No one eats that. Ella, it must be b'tanagayla saimedes legadol bayim. Here's the pshat. It must be that we're dealing with a different type of chicken, a different type of hen. It wasn't there to be eaten. It was there to lay eggs, an egg chicken. So here it's mukta, because before Yom Tov, this was designated out from being eaten. You never had intention to eat this. This was like designated as it does its own thing, it lays eggs. And now comes on Yom Tov, if you want to eat a part of it, that could be muktzah. But if that's the case, then my tamar the Beishamai, then why does Beishamai allow it? You see, you have a machlekes. We're going to get stuck somewhere. It's either so obviously mutter, how could Basil forbid it? Or it's so obviously usher, how does Beishamai permit it? The Gemara says muktzah, it's muktzah. So the Gemara has a question on the question. You're asking, what's the reason for Beishamai? Because it's muktzah. My kushya, what's the question? What's the reason for Beishamai? Dilma Beishamai less muktzah. Maybe Beishamai that allows it doesn't hold of muktzah at all. You know, there's a machlekes about muktzah, very famous machlekes. The machlekes between Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda. If there's an issue of muktzah, muktzah would be the classic case. You have oil in a lamp, and the lamp goes out, and you have the oil that's left there. That oil was designated for the lamp, but now the lamp went out. Now the fire went out. Can you use that oil for to put it on your bread or something for the meal? So if you hold up muktzah, that muktzah is a problem. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, and you can't. According to Reb Shimon, it shouldn't be a problem. So here, if you have this egg that's designated to lay eggs, so you're not eating it on Yom Tov. So according to Reb Shimon, it should be permissible, because now you changed your mind. I wasn't going to eat it on Yom Tov, but now I am. There's no no, I'm not eating the whole chicken. I'm eating the egg, but so what? Right? And according to Rabbi Yehuda, this would be a real problem, because it's muktzah. It was designated before Yom Tov not to be used. Right. It would be a problem, yeah. So yeah, it would depend which coop you kept it in. If it was in this coop. Yeah. 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 It has to be designated like that. Yeah, wild. The Gemara is going to talk about wild animals that you didn't have in mind at all. That's just happened to wander in. So the Gemara says we have a teretz. Beishamai doesn't hold of muktzah, and Beis Hillel does. The Gemara says so. We have to realize we have a question on why were you bothered by this. Now we have to answer why we were bothered by this. The answer is so obvious. Why did this bother you? So now we have to say, oh, you know why it bothered us? Because of this. Kasal Kadaitin, we were thinking originally, the Maksha, the one that asked, what's the reason of Beishamai? He was thinking, Afilaman Deshari b'muktzah b'nei l'daser. He was thinking that it's fine, muktzah. But there's something that's even more strict than muktzah. Neilad. Neilad never existed before. See, with muktzah, you could say that even though he didn't have intention, but in case of emergency, it still exists, and he would have used it for whatever he needs it for. Even though he didn't have intention to use this chicken for eating, but the chicken is there, and in cases of emergency, you would use it. So, right, yeah, it's similar. But Neilad wasn't even there, so you didn't know anything about it. So that's totally muktzah. That's much worse. So the Gemara's question was like this: that Beitza Shenolda b'Yom, it's designated not to be used for food. So according to Beishamai, there's a problem here, and that's why it's us. Beis Hillel, according to Beis Hillel, there's a problem here. That's why it's us. According to Beishamai, there's no problem. Why did we ask the question? Because we were thinking that even though Beishamai doesn't hold of muktzah, but we thought that they held of Neilad. And even according to Beishamai, there should be a problem. So it's telling me no, Beishamai doesn't hold of either. Okay. What if he not hold of? So he clearly doesn't hold of. Well, what we're saying now is that he didn't. What's the problem? He doesn't hold of muktzah. So we're saying that the basis for the question is, even though he doesn't hold of muktzah, but really he holds of Neilad, and Neilad is an issue. So we're asking, so why does he allow it? But there's Neilad. The answer must be that he doesn't hold of that either. But that's what we're going to see in a minute. So my tamay the Beishamai. So what actually is the reason according to Beishamai? So Amar Rav Nachman, this answer is going to be attributed to Rav Nachman. Because we're going to get another shot in the Mishnah. It's going to be attributed to other. Rav Nachman says, yeah, we are dealing with the chicken, a bird that's designated to raise the eggs, to lay eggs. With the Islay Muktzah, Islay Nailad, Leslie Muktzah, Leslie Nailad. And now what we do is like this. We say that if you hold of Muktzah, that there's an issue, everything needs to be designated for use before Yom Tov, before Shabbos. So then, if you hold of that, then you also hold that there's a problem of Nailad, obviously. And if you don't hold of Muktzah, which is the opinion of Beishamai, opinion of Rav Shimon, and the Gemara Shabbos, you also don't hold of Nailad. It doesn't need to be designated. It never existed before. Nailad, it came into existence today. So, but I don't need everything designated from beforehand. So I don't, even if it didn't exist beforehand, that's also fine. Right. One pepper, one cucumber. Yeah. Right. Right. The egg wasn't here before. So if you hold of mukta, so it right. Okay, so it matches very nicely. A Beis and Older Yom Tov, an egg that was laid on Yom Tov. Shammai says you're allowed to eat it. They don't hold it, there's a problem of muktzah. It wasn't designated beforehand for eating. The mother hen was just there to lay eggs. It wasn't food. But there's no problem of muktzah. There's no problem of nailot. Shammai would allow that. And Basil says there's a problem of muktzah, there's a problem of nailot. And so you can't eat it on Yom Tov. Everything is good. Okay. The Gemara says, Beishamai Kirib Shimon. Beishamai holds a Kirib Shimon that doesn't hold the muktzah. Beisil Kirib Yehuda. Beisil holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda was the stricter one about muktzah. These are two students of Rabbi Akiva. Right? Rabbi Yehuda is Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Lai. Yeah, he's buried right outside Tzfat. And Reb Shimon is the lenient one in muktzah. Rabbi Yehuda is the strict one. So Umi Amar Rav Nachman Hachi. Does Rav Nachman really say that? Does Rav Nachman really say that these are the opinions of Basil Beishamai? But Tanan, the problem is we have a Mishnah as follows. Beishamai Yomrim. Beishamai says, Magbiyan mi ala shulchan atzamas uklipin. Okay, let's say on Shabbos, you have the peels and the shells that are left over on the table. You're allowed to remove them. You're allowed to take them off the table. So if there's bones and shells, so the first opinion here says, Beishamai, says you're allowed to remove them from the table. There's no problem of muktzah. Okay. So far, it sounds like it's following our opinion. It's following the way that we've been learning before, that Beishamai is going to be lenient about muktzah, like Reb Shimon. Now here I have these shells. There's really no use for them. They're not. If they're fit for animals, then that's the big leniency with garbage. But if it's not fit for animals, are you allowed to remove them? So Beishamai says yes. It would have to be. Yeah, it would have to be. Yeah. It doesn't come in. Yeah. They still say, Mesalakas atabla kula manara. They still says they used to have like a tabletop. There would be the stand for the table, and then there would be a tray that would come on top of it, like a TV dinner. The tray would come down on top. So this Hillel says that you can't take the shells off. You have to take the whole tray and shake the tray off. Yeah. Now, Taisus over here mentions that there's a problem of a basis. How are you going to deal with that? Tema v'alo your basis l'davarasa. You're familiar with the basis? Basis. It becomes a base, a basis for for muktzah. There's a problem with that. Okay, whatever the case is, but that's the solution. Solution is that I remove something else that's not it's not the direct muktzah. That's what Basil said. But in other words, Basil over here is saying that there is a muktzah issue, and Beishamai says there is no muktzah issue. The Amar Rav Nachman. Now here's where we come into a problem. Rav Nachman says, Anu Ein lanu ela Beis Shammai Reb Yehuda Beis Hillel Reb Shimon. Rav Nachman comes along and switches the names around. Really, Beis Shammai is the stricter one, and Beis Hillel is the lenient one. Beis Hillel is like Reb Shimon. Now, in this Mishnah over here about taking the bones and shells off the table, Rav Nachman switches the name. So we're asking, how could Rav Nachman explain our Mishnah? Where Beis Shammai is lenient, and they don't hold of muktzah. When I have another Mishnah about taking things off the table, where it sounded like Beis Shammai was the lenient one, but Rav Nachman comes along and switches it around. Beis Shammai is the strict one. So it doesn't fit. How could Rav Nachman really say this when we know we switched it around for that Mishnah? Amalach Rav Nachman responds like this. Gabe Shabbos, when it comes to Shabbos, the Sasam Lantana Reb Shimon, where we have a Stam Mishnah that fits with Reb Shimon, a more lenient opinion. The Tanan, as it was taught in the Mishnah, this doesn't have to do with muktzah yet. You're allowed to cut up a raw squash in front of an animal, even though it's very difficult, but it's not a problem on Shabbos. It's not considered hard work. But you're also allowed to cut up a dead carcass in front of the dogs, in front of the animals. Now, it died on Shabbos. So it wasn't fit for the animals before Shabbos.
You're cutting it off.
Right. So what we're saying now is that that's a Stam Mishnah. That's a Stam Mishnah. And it seems like there's no issue with muktzah. You're allowed to cut up this animal to give to the dog. So because I have a Stam Mishnah regarding Shabbos that says that there's no muktzah, so who would I like the Stam Mishnah to fit with? Beis Hillel. Because I'd like that the way that Rebbe's paskening, Rebbe arranged the Mishnayos, an anonymous Mishnah would be the halacha, should fit with Beis Hillel. So because on Shabbos I have a Stam Mishnah, an anonymous Mishnah that says that there's no problem of muktzah, so Rav Nachman puts that with Beis Hillel that there's no problem of muktzah. Where did we see that? Rav Nachman switched the Mishnah around before, and he said that shaking off the table was what Beis Shammai required, but Beis Hillel would say that there would be no problem just to remove the shell. That was Rav Nachman's way of saying it. Okay. Aval gabe Yom Tif, but when it comes to Yom Tif, the Sasam Lamtana Reb Yehuda, that we have a Stam Mishnah, an anonymous Mishnah, that says that there is a problem of muktzah. The Tanan ein mevakim eitzim and akeiros. You're not allowed to chisel wood off a beam. You need firewood on Yom Tov, and you're allowed to make a fire. You're allowed to continue a fire on Yom Tov, but you're not allowed to take wood from beams that were already built. That wasn't designated for firewood. Or are you allowed to take off a beam that broke on Yom Tov? Because Bein Hashmashos, when Yom Tov came in, this was not designated for firewood. And since when Yom Tov came in, it wasn't designated for firewood. It's not designated for firewood the whole day. So, Mukim lo leBeis Hillel Reb Yehuda. So, if this is a Stam Mishnah on Yom Tov that tells me there's a problem of muktzah, so we say that Beis Hillel holds like Reb Yehuda that says that there's a problem of muktzah. Basically, what we just did was like this. Does Beis Hillel hold of muktzah? Muktzah is a problem. Does Beis Hillel hold like Reb Shimon or like Reb Yehuda? So we said it depends. On Shabbos, they say there's no problem of muktzah. Beis Hillel hold like Reb Shimon. But on Yom Tov, Beis Hillel says there is a problem. They hold like Reb Yehuda. That would explain our Mishnah. Beis Hillel be Yom Tov. Beis Hillel says like Teichal. Rav Nachman says Beis Hillel says that there's no problem of muktzah. That's on Shabbos, he says it. But on Yom Tov, there is a problem. The Gemara says, Michti, 1 second. Man sasmi lemasnisin. Who is the one that makes our Mishnahs anonymous or not? In other words, who's the one that's editing the Mishnayos, that's setting it up like this, that we should have a Stam Mishnah on Shabbos that says, an anonymous Mishnah on Shabbos that says that Muktzah is acceptable, that Muktzah is not a problem, like Reb Shimon. And who's the one that says that on Yom Tov Muktzah is a problem? It's Rebbe. It's Rebbe Yehuda Anasi. Don't get confused over here with Rebbe Yehuda Anasi and Rebbe Yehuda Bar Bilai. Rebbe Yehuda Bar Bilai was the one that's strict about Muktzah. And Rebbe Yehuda Anasi, Rebbe, is the one that's editing the Mishnayos. He's editing the Mishnayos to fit with Rebbe Yehuda on Yom Tov and with Reb Shimon on Shabbos. Ma'ishna b'Shabbos t'sasam lan Reb Shimon. Why on Shabbos did he give us an anonymous Mishnah that fits with Reb Shimon? Ma'ishna b'Yom Tov t'sasam lan Reb Yehuda. And why on Yom Tov does he say that the anonymous Mishnah fits with Reb Yehuda, more strict? The Gemara says, Amri, they say it like this: Shabbos t'chamira. Shabbos, which is more strict. No one's going to be lenient about it. So we don't mind being lenient like Reb Shimon about Muktzah, because no one's going to say, oh, if Muktzah is permissible, then you can take Shabbos lightly. Because Shabbos is very, very strict. So one leniency is not going to take the whole Shabbos down. But Yom Tov to kill, but Yom Tov, which is much more lenient, and if you say, oh yeah, it's just Yom Tov, don't worry about it. It's just Yom Tov, it's not very strict. So if you're going to take any leniency on Yom Tov, then and then you're going to take it lightly. People won't be strict about it. So that's why we have to be even stricter on Yom Tov so that no one takes it lightly. Okay. That's good. We have an explanation here for what's going on. Be'er shenol the Yom Tov is Muktzah, Nailad, and Beis is Machmir. How did you establish this? Are you dealing with a chicken that's designated for raising eggs, for laying eggs? That's how you establish this. And the problem is that it's muktzah because you didn't have intention to eat it. And Beis Hillel is machmer. If that's the case, Abi, the Gemara is asking, why do you have to talk about the egg if the chicken itself, the hen, was designated to lay eggs? And now let's say on Yom Tov you change your mind and you decide, you know what? I know that it was designated to lay eggs, but I have guests and I want to eat the chicken. The same machlekes would apply. Beis Hillel would say you have a muktzah issue, it's Yom Tov. And Beis Shammai would say you don't have a muktzah issue. So why do you have to argue about the egg, which is like a small detail of this? If the same machlekes would apply to the hen, to the chicken itself. But according to this, so those leniencies is actually the reason why we're having this argument. Because we're lenient on Yom Tov, we have all of those leniencies on Yom Tov. We have to be stricter when it comes to Muktzah. So the Gemara says like this. The Gemara is right now putting Nailad and Muktzah into one category.
Yes, or if it looks because of Nailad. Well, it wouldn't be if it wasn't.
Right.
I'm questioning the analogy. I don't think
right. See, what we're doing though, you're right, we are ignoring the stringency of Nailad over Muktzah. We turned the whole thing into a machlekes for Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda. That's what we just did. We said, oh, if the whole thing over here is a machlekes for Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda about muktzah, then there's no difference between the chicken and the egg. Right. So the Gemara says, well, I can answer this. This is your answer. You know why we're arguing about the egg and not the chicken? Because we want to tell us that not only is the chicken permissible, but even the egg is permissible. Even the egg that never existed, which is a little bit stricter, which is noilad. So that's why we're arguing about the egg. So the Gemara says, why don't you tell me the other way? Why don't you argue about the chicken? That over there would be a chiddush that Beis says that it's prohibited. In other words, maybe he only says the egg is prohibited because he doesn't hold of noilad. How do you know he also doesn't hold that how do you know he holds that even the chicken, regular muktzah? So the Gemara says, well, that I can answer. When I have an option, you want to have a chiddush. It's a bigger chiddush to say something is lenient, something is permissible. Because to be strict, all you have to do is say, I'm not really sure. I think you should be strict. So, but to be lenient, over there, yeah, you have to be 100%, unequivocal. Like there's no doubt this is to be lenient. So we always say koyach de teira'ada, that it's the power of leniency is stronger. So to talk about the egg is talking about something that we're very lenient in, according to Beis Shammai. So it's a bigger chiddush. That's why we're discussing the egg. The Gemara says, well, if that's the case, argue about both of them. If I have a chicken that's there to lay eggs, and it's Yom Tov, and I want to eat both of them, I could have said it like that. Beis Shammai says eat it. Beis Hillel says don't eat it. I would have had the koyach de'atira, and I would have also had the stringency of Beis Hillel that I can't eat the chicken either. Okay, that was Rav Nachman's teretz, that we're dealing with a chicken that's there to lay eggs, and therefore there's an issue of muktzah. Ella Amar Rabba says, he rejects Rav Nachman's teretz. And he says like this, we're actually dealing with the chicken that was there for eating. You're going to chef the chicken anyway. But there's going to be a problem with the egg. You could have, if you would have just chefed the chicken, you could have eaten the whole thing with the eggs inside, as you see. The problem is now, but the egg was laid. So it's we're talking about a chicken that was there for eating. However, we're dealing with a special Yom Tov. We're dealing with Yom Tov that's on a Sunday. So Shabbos, the egg developed inside the chicken. And on Sunday, the egg was laid. So, umishum hachana, and there's a problem of hachana, preparation. The Kasavar Rabba holds, kol beya de misyalda hidna miasmal gamrala. Any egg that's laid today was completed yesterday. Now, Rabba Latame, and now Rabba follows, I guess it takes a day for it to come out, but it was completed probably means with the shell, because they developed that. I haven't had the eggs in America. In England, they used to serve us in the soup. They would serve us these little eggs. It was similar to like the egg yolks. It would come out, it was like rubbery. It was a chicken egg, I think so. Yeah, it would come in the soup. They would give it in the soup. But Uh-huh. Well, I haven't seen chicken feet in the soup either in a while. No, but it's like the chicken feet also. You remember the chicken feet in the soup? I mean, the grandmother, my grandmother would put the chicken feet in the soup. We didn't get it kaparas. We would have the. She wouldn't. You don't serve that, but it stays in the pot, and then. Okay, but this they would serve. So the
What do you mean by chicken feet?
Chicken feet,
that feet.
Chicken feet.
No,
me too.
No, feet.
Give me a second.
Of course.
Give me a second, then I
Right.
visual of it.
For the eggs, you say you're little eggs.
Little eggs, underdeveloped. Yeah, no shell. No shell. Okay. Rabba Tamei.
You think they were from inside the chicken?
Yeah, it was clearly from inside the chicken. Rabba Tamei. And Rabba followed his reasoning. The Amar Rabba, that Rabba says, what's the meaning of the verse? It says, was on the 6th day, talking about the month. And they'll prepare what they bring, or bring what they prepare. They'll prepare what they bring. So it says like this: Chol mechan l'Shabbos. The weekday prepares for Shabbos. Chol mechan l'Yomtiv. The weekday prepares for Yomtiv. Vein Yomtiv mechan l'Shabbos. Vein Shabbos mechan l'Yomtiv. Yomtiv can't prepare for Shabbos, and Shabbos can't prepare for Yomtiv. Yeah, Teisus asks over here. What about someone asks over here, what about the Erev Tavshilin? If we're dealing with the real Daraisa, the way Rashi puts this is that there's an Isser Daraisa, an issue of Muktzah. There's machlekes on how to learn Rabbah. But Rashi learns that there's this Daraisa Muktzah. Things need to be designated 100% beforehand that this is going to be prepared from a weekday. It has to be prepared for Shabbos and prepared for Yom Tov. You can't have Yom Tov being preparing it for Shabbos. And the problem is how to say if shouldn't work. If it's a rabbinic issue, then fine. The rabbi said if you prepare a little bit like this, then that will allow it in. Okay, whatever the case is, what we're seeing here is that if something gets prepared, even by heaven, on Shabbos, and immediately after Shabbos is Yom Tov, that cannot be eaten. It has to be prepared on a weekday for Yom Tov. So the Gemara says, Amalei Abaya. Abaya says, Elameata, Yom Tov Bal Matishtri. Abaya tells Rab, Abaya is a student of Rab, he grew up in his house. The conversation is Abaya and Rab now. Abaya tells him, he says, but I read the Mishnah, it says, Beya Shenolda B'Yom Tov. Beis says there's a problem with that. It's not accurate because it's really Beya Shenolda B'Yom Tov Shalach Shabbos. There's a problem. If Shabbos was yesterday, Yom Tov is a Sunday, so the egg was finished on Shabbos, and now I'm not allowed to eat it on Yom Tov. Okay, but the Mishnah didn't say that. The Mishnah said the Beya Shenolda B'Yom Tov, any Yom Tov, and really it should be that it should be permissible if it's a regular Yom Tov. We're going to have a Yom Tov next week. It's a Monday, right? Monday night. So you're not allowed to eat the egg on that's laying on Tuesday. So what's the problem? Yesterday was Monday. Shouldn't be a problem. So the Gemara answers, or Rabbi answers, it's a gzeira. We're going to let you eat it on Tuesday. We may end up letting you eat it on Sunday, and that's going to be a real problem. The Gemara says, well, Shabbos the Alma Tishtari. And what about on Shabbos? The regular Shabbos egg that's laid on Shabbos. The Gemara says, well, that's a gzeir mishum Shabbos achar Yom Tov. Where that's a concern that maybe Friday was Yom Tov, and it was prepared on Friday, and it was completed on Shabbos. The Gemara says, amigos rinan, do you make a gzeira like that? But Tanya, but you have a brisa. Look at this, unbelievable. You chef the chicken. In the chicken or egg. You're allowed to eat it.
Looks like I've done before.
Right. If it's inside, you're allowed to eat it. We don't make any gzeira that maybe the egg was finished. It doesn't tell me what size egg up here, right? And but I'm not saying that this gzeira could be yesterday was Yom Tov, and now how are you allowed to eat it today? Well, no, I'm sorry, it can't be like that. You're shechting it on Yom Tov. You can't say yesterday was Shabbos, and now it's Sunday, and that there's a gzeira that you shouldn't be allowed to eat it. It says that you're allowed to. V'misa, and if you say that you make a gzeira, there should be a gzeira that's for those that are laid today because of yesterday. And there should be a gzeira that you shouldn't be allowed to eat the eggs that are in the chicken because it's similar to the ones that are laid. Amalei, the rabbi responds, that's why you never had it in England. Complete eggs that are inside the development and inside the chicken. That's not common for you to find the complete eggs in there. So they don't make a decree on what's inside the chicken. They only make a decree on what's laid. So that apparently would be more common for you to find that the chicken laid an egg. That's very common. So when was that fully developed? Yesterday. That could have been that yesterday was Shabbos, and now you're going to try to eat it on Yom Tov. We say that that's a problem. That's a gzeira because if it actually would have been Shabbos yesterday, then it would be asur for you to eat it today. So it's a gzeira even if yesterday wasn't Shabbos, it's still asur for you to eat today. Let's leave the Gemara right there.
Good job.